A great night's sleep starts at Harvey's Furniture. Check out the large selection of complete bedroom sets. And when it comes to mattresses, we have a full selection from Bemco, Spring Air, and Chatham & Wells. Harvey's Furniture. Our home, your home.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Muddy. I'm Ashley Conrad, and joining me today,
Brittany Bull
and
David Adam.
okay,
Can
and
you say it with us?
I'm not doing
Come
that.
on.
No. No.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
No.
Yeah.
and today it's time for Coffee Talk.
And there's a reason I can't even come
God,
close
David,
to that.
totally let me down.
No.
Me
Sorry.
too.
All
I
right.
was, when I found out this morning that I was being asked to do this,
You were so happy?
Well, that was the first reaction. The second reaction was they're going to ask me to do that, and no.
You know where you didn't let us down, though?
What's that?
Yesterday.
The trial,
throughout
the
week.
whole trial. So let's say yesterday was kind of a culmination of a long, arduous buildup.
It's
filled
been
with
19 months. since
19 months.
He was arraigned in Adams County Circuit Court, I think on November 16th of 2021. So I need to go back and find out how many stories I've written about.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about
Bradley Yohn.
And of course, throughout all of this, we've heard that it shouldn't be called the Bradley Yohn case,
I thought
right?
was one of the most interesting things
That they
that
said.
was said was where I just asked Heidi Young, as the oldest member of the 4 children, do you have something that you would like to say now that the trial is finally here? And for her to come up with that and say, this is, this should be about my mom.
Yes.
This should not be all about him and all of his. I thought that was very insightful. It made you sit back and go, you're
100%
actually
right. And by her mom, we're talking about Tina Lohman-Schmidt, correct? And she has since passed away. So
she died
rest
33
in peace.
days. She died 33 days after
the alleged, not the alleged incident.
After the attack, it's not alleged
anymore. After the
anymore.
attack, yeah. So yesterday, so throughout this, there's been, of course, tragedy, a lot of theatrics, I think, and then it culminated to a conviction.
I
right?
would say, and I think this is fair. There's theatrics on both sides.
There are. Yes.
I mean,
That's part of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bradley Yohn.
Oh yeah, I wasn't discriminating on either side. I'm just saying
but
there's.
I got to tease Josh Jones because that guy, his facial expressions throughout the process.
Yeah.
Mostly when, one of the first things that I noticed when this first started and Bradley Yohn decided to start defending himself, and I can go back and find probably gobs of photos of this, is that the defense table and the prosecution table are right next to each other. And then they both have to turn to their right to see the judge.
The screen. Okay.
And as Yohn would talk, Josh would just completely turn his back and he wouldn't look at him. He wouldn't acknowledge him. It was just his little silent protest of, you have no...
Sit down and shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Josh had many of these moments.
Yeah, and like this.
Josh, he is an open book,
Yeah.
and you could tell when he was really frustrated. And then Bradley Yohn, I mean, I learned from the day that they were going to get ready to start. The trial was going to start, I think, June 22nd of last year. Yohn was going to defend himself. They'd prepped everybody. They were going through final instructions. They had called the jury, was in the jury room waiting to be called into the courtroom. And he goes, and so I tell Josh Jones, I don't want to be around for, jury selection. That's boring. I got lots of other work to do. I'll be here tomorrow for opening statements. And about 20, so I left. And then like 15 minutes later, I get a text and it's like, you better get back over here. Yohn just said I can't do this.
Yeah.
And the jury's and the trial's off. And I learned when it came to him, you truly did not know from moment to moment, from day to day, what he might say. And I think Brittany could corroborate this.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday in the courtroom, there were probably 5 or 6 instances where he said something and there were just audible gasps in the newsroom, like, you did not just say that, did you?
I mean, I was following along on Facebook and Twitter, of course, and I was finding myself gasping. And of course, I wasn't even there, but to be in that courtroom. So can you give us just like what was the overall kind of, I guess, vibe, mood? Of course, it was, probably not great, but there had to be some time when it was like, really, holy shit. Like,
I think
what is
there
going
was,
on?
you could feel a little bit of relief that day, no
Really?
matter what, because everyone knew it was kind of coming to a close.
Well, I know
Even the
from my
family.
standpoint, I was walking in there expecting the possibility of A, he was going to have a long interview with his father.
Yeah.
B, he was going to put Karen Blackledge on the stand.
Yeah.
C, he might put himself on the stand.
How would that have looked? That's what I.
You know,
that's why
I
I
was
wanted
really
to.
curious
I wanted to
about
go
that.
with you for this.
I don't know how that would have gone. I did have a quiet conversation with Judge Thompson during a lunch break one day, and I just said, "You don't have to answer this question for me. But how are you going to handle that?" And I said, "Are you just going to give him like a live mic, like it's open mic night?" And
I feel like that's what he wanted, right?
But I think, yeah, well,
Maybe.
Bradley Yohn, okay, he was a narcissist.
He's no lawyer.
He's definitely, he tried, but he tried to, he had a really difficult time understanding how you introduce evidence into a case like that.
Well,
and
who wouldn't,
he
I
kept
guess.
trying to spring surprises on Josh, and he would just go, objection.
But then explain why.
Sustained.
Exactly.
But he was explained to everyone, including Bradley, on why you couldn't do this.
Yeah.
So he actually
You have to lay a foundation
He
as to
actually
why
had a little
that
bit of.
So he went to
school
law
what-
school
Yeah,
and court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, so, the vibe in there weren't that many people in there, to be really quite
There
honest,
weren't.
who didn't already know what was going on, because there were about 2, do I call them pews?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
Two
call it.
benches. That's what I call
it,
That's
yeah.
what that.
You
That's
know,
what it
they-
felt
they-
like on my
they-
bottom.
They look like old church pews.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
There
for
were
sure.
probably 2 pews for family. There was 1 pew for media, and then
David had the back room to himself.
I sat in the back with Mac from KHQA, and Matt Hopp sat directly in front of me. And there was on occasion another person. There were probably about 4 or 5 people who I just want to see it.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
And then there were several members of law enforcement. So the shock value, everybody in there kind of knew what was going on already anyway. It wasn't, now I thought there were many more people there for the Bleefnick trial.
I was
There were
gonna
more
ask that.
family members there,
Sure,
but there were a lot more community members there too.
Right.
But it was actually, there wasn't, I'm not even sure there was a vibe, because you
just
didn't
wasn't
know what you
was
didn't know
gonna
what he was
happen?
going to do.
Yeah, this was
Right.
the vibe.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At one point, so where I sat next to Randy, who was taking the photos, and he was in a very good position.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think it was during Yohn's closing argument, he broke down in tears, and Randy was clicking away, and he looked straight at Randy, who I'm directly between them, and goes, "Stop!" And everyone put their head down but me. I swear, I probably was just like, "Stop
You don't get to
what?
control this."
Stop what?"
And that was
Yeah.
what, I don't want to give him too much credit, but I truly believe he thinks he didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, there's.
I think he.
I
Well,
think, I really do. I really believe.
He thought he was going to convince maybe everybody that he didn't do anything wrong.
Can't you
but
know?
he got so
I guess
emotional
narcissism-
throughout
It was what we were
and
talking about
sociopaths.
behind, where you tell a lie so much
Well, it's
that you're
it's-
starting to believe it
It's
yourself.
the George Costanza line from
Yeah.
Seinfeld. If you truly believe it,
Yeah.
It's not
a
a lie.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere along this line, he had convinced himself he didn't do it. And, his defense was basically, you messed up and you lied and you messed up the investigation and you lied.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one who's telling the truth.
Got it all right.
I'm the only one who's got it all right.
Yeah, I know he was basing it on in my mind, he was basing it on, lack of evidence, or he was hoping the jury would say there's not enough solid evidence to convict, right?
He was just trying to poke holes
I think
in everything.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
If you listened to
He didn't have an argument against it.
Well,
Yeah.
if you listen to a lot of his interrogations of people on the witness stand, he would just kind of poke at this, and he would make a comment, and he'd make a comment about that, and he'd make a comment about this, but he really wouldn't dive deep into anything because I don't know that he really had the...
There was no focus.
Yeah, it was just kind of just
All
sitting
over the
around.
place.
It was all
It's like a
over
piece
the
I give
place.
David before he edits it.
Right? Well, and I think, that may be because I know I've dealt with a lot of narcissists in my past, and I know that that's kind of how it's almost trying in a sense to confuse you and make you feel like you need to second guess what you're thinking because...
And I thought that was so interesting you just brought that up because we have a story on our website that was posted on Tuesday afternoon in which I went to visit with the family members. After all of this was done, they all went to Chicks on the River, and they took a shot of tequila in honor of their mother. They called it Tequila with Tina. And
awesome.
One of the and then I talked to them for probably 35 minutes. And one of the things that both of the sisters talked about was how unnerved they were because they were witnesses. They had to meet with Bradley Yohn face to face by law before the trial
And not hurt him.
and they were both
That's
really
restraint, man.
They were both and their number one concern was, I don't want to say anything that's going to cause
Him
Josh
to get
Jones and Laura Keck to lose this trial. They were
Right.
so worried about what they were going to say.
Yeah, that's understandable.
That was
Because it just takes one little thing to create any
Doubt.
any doubt. Yeah, and that's insane. So back to, I'm sorry, but I'm
you're
so
fine.
just intrigued by this. So when he brought his dad in,
yes.
I was under the assumption, based on tweets and stuff beforehand, that he was going to use him to kind of corroborate some kind of alibi. But it turned out it just seemed like it was a visit.
I think
Is that
so,
right?
too.
Well, one of the things that Bradley Yohn said prior to this was that he was never given the opportunity to do the same thing with his father that he did with Heidi Young and Ilsa Terrell, the two Lohman girls. And so...
Why would he be allowed to?
Because he wants to interrogate, he wants to talk to the witnesses so he knows what they're going to say when they put them up on the stand.
And his father was incarcerated.
And his father was on the witness list.
I gotcha.
And his father
So
was actually in
his
the
right
Adams
was to talk to
County
every
jail.
witness
Yes,
that he was
just
going to
want-
call. I gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
So he says, I never got a chance to talk to my dad. And Judge Thompson said, well, what are you going to what are you going to talk about? And he says, well, the number one, he's going to be able to tell you where I was.
Yeah.
And Josh Jones said, no, he's not, because you can't just all of a sudden spring an alibi witness on us here 5 days into a trial, which is correct. And again, that's where Bradley
Didn't
really
understand. But he was also, I think, just pulling it last strings
absolutely.
too.
And then he said he claimed that some of the jewelry that was found on him when he was arrested actually belonged to him and did not belong to Tina Lohman.
How about the purse?
He did not say. I don't remember him saying that about the purse. I just remember he said it about the jewelry.
Okay.
And he was going to have his father come on and basically corroborate the fact that that was his jewelry.
Right.
And Dad got up there, and Dad
didn't
was like,
know what day it was.
Dad was like, I don't remember dates. I'm terrible at dates.
Which is funny. He was in jail for drugs, right? So that kind of makes sense that he
he's got 180. He's serving a 180-day sentence
for meth.
For possession of meth of less than 5 grams. Yeah. Okay. So he.
Yeah, said he couldn't remember dates over, and that was part of Bradley Yohn's argument in some other thing that he was trying to poke holes in when he kept saying over and over again, why wouldn't they remember this? And why wouldn't we? Well, you don't remember things when you're in shock. Like, they wouldn't
Trauma,
remember.
yeah.
He was
It was
more,
like times.
He was also very upset with the fact that there were certain questions that Joe Lohmeyer, John Shoney, Jake McMahon, Ruth Bowden, all with the Adams County Sheriff's Department, they remembered certain things like that. But when he wanted the answers to how many people were in the house, when did you let people into the house, almost all of them are like, I don't know, I don't remember.
But weren't they going by protocol? Like anyway, wouldn't they write down what they're supposed to write down? I don't know.
I don't know how they're supposed to fill out those forms. I mean, basically, he was working with the forms that they had filled out, after an arrest, after an incident report like that. I did think
that would be aggravating.
Yeah.
He thought that they should remember more things.
I agree.
And then they asked, there were
or have access to that information.
Well, and there were multiple times that the discussion was had as to whether a lot of testimony was whether or not he had actually forced Tina Lohman to take off her top, and he kept asking what clothes was she wearing, and nobody really remembered, and so then that got to the point where one of his points that he made. He made the point in his closing argument that and he asked every single person from law enforcement, did you help get her off the ground? And most of the time it was, I don't know how she got off the ground. And his point was, she never was on the ground. She never, and that the blood, that if she was bleeding so terribly, why wasn't there blood on the couch? Why wasn't there blood on the chair? I mean, so he wasn't inept. He also really missed a lot of things, and he also made he basically made the assumption, well, she didn't sit on the ground, even though everybody testified that they saw her sitting on the ground. They all testified how her legs were set off to one side. Basically, his whole argument was, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying, and you're lying to set me up.
And that was his defense.
Further, though, like, how would he not know she was on the ground if he was never there?
Yeah.
Well, he's just
this is claiming
and he's just trying. And again,
he's setting the stage for what actually.
Yeah.
Well, he's also setting the stage for an appeal, which he thinks he's going to try. Which he thinks he's going to get.
Now, what would he do in appeal? What would the basis be? Because it can't be incompetent counsel.
I think that's going to be interesting. What is the basis? Oh no, he absolutely can't say he had it. It was his own counsel.
Yeah.
So that won't be it. What will the basis of his appeal be? He didn't like the way he got treated in the Adams County Jail.
That would be it. Yeah.
But actually, how much is that going to affect the facts of the case?
The thumb drives that he claims were tampered with, like the tampered investion, I would think. I'm not giving him any tips or anything, but that would be.
Well, he brought that up throughout the case. There were many times before the juror was brought in, he would say.
Was there ever an answer to that?
Well, there was one time where he said something about that he had like 11 thumb drives or 10 thumb drives, and then all of a sudden he lost one.
I think they said that he threw it.
And
throw it at somebody.
And no one could find it. And then all of a sudden, like after a break, someone said, "Oh, we found it
because you threw it.
Threw it at somebody." Oh, I didn't throw it at anybody. I placed it. I tossed it in my discovery box. I think with him, he's living in a different colored world right now. Again, he's convinced himself of his innocence, and I look at this and I just go, okay, there are fingerprints all over the car. He did say during his final testimony, no one asked me how I got a hold of the car, did they? But he never explained why.
He didn't delve into it.
He never went into it.
Yeah.
How did he? Nobody knows.
Other than the fact that it was taken from the house and then he took it and drove it to Hannibal. But he's saying, you didn't ask me how I got the car.
Very interesting.
So everything was a lie. Everything, you were all out to get me, but he didn't. At no point did he ever say, "Okay, well, how'd your fingerprints get on that car?"
Yeah.
How did you get the car? I mean, if you didn't get the car, if he didn't get the car by stealing it from her house, don't you think that he would have potentially tried to bring up the factual basis for that?
Yeah.
During his
You would think.
defense? Well, he didn't have one.
But I think throughout this whole process, since his arrest, he has shown that he doesn't really have the capacity for this I guess, defend him, in my mind.
I don't know if very many people do.
Who could?
I can't imagine doing it, no. But I
No.
think that at some point, I don't know, somebody would have to get in and be like, oh, man.
Bob thinks he could.
I think this is a bad idea. Bob, you think you could defend yourself? He probably could. He's just he's just the jack of all trades. But no, I think it's just interesting when you see people, and you have to have a sense of narcissism or sociopath or something, Bob, to be able to think that you are actually capable of doing that against professionals and experts and people who are so pissed off at the situation that they're out to get you and burn you at stake.
I thought
right?
I thought yesterday during his closing argument, he said so many things.
Oh, just inappropriate.
That were crude. Inappropriate.
I'm surprised some people didn't leave the room.
I was
Or jump over to.
It was hard for me to see the reaction of the jurors because I was live tweeting most of the time, so my head was down. I was listening. But he just said things that were just.
We don't need to get into it completely.
He said some inappropriate things about Tina, but then when he also said, if I knew that the person in this room had done this, I'd go, and they pointed to her about 4 or 5 law enforcement
right next to him,
right next to him in the front row. And he goes, I'd take one of your pistols and go blow that guy's brains out.
Yeah, to his granny or whatever he called her.
Yeah,
and he said also how the state's attorney kept referring to him in this closing argument as a man. He goes, a man wouldn't do this, a creep would.
Right.
I'm not a creep. But outside of that, and outside of, like, in light of, the justice that was served, Tina, had some justice served to her yesterday. And I was fortunate to be there and tag along with David. It was nice being your shadow. The family.
Your shadow was actually quite a ways away from me. You were up in the front row in the good seats.
Yeah,
I was up in the bleachers.
At one point in time, he did make me run an errand, and by run, I mean run. He's like,
there really wasn't very much time. Well, here's what happened.
Get there. It's like 5 minutes from the courthouse.
Did you do it though? You did it. Yeah,
I was 2 minutes under maybe.
Yeah.
And,
then
I'm doing this.
I was trying to send I wanted to make contact with each of the jurors to give them an opportunity to talk after it was over.
Sure.
And I had talked with Sharon Main, the trial court administrator, about how to best do that. But I was going to do it at lunch.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden Monday starts and Ilsa Terrell, no, you're not going to interview her. You've already taken care of her. Dad took 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to interview himself, and he said, Karen Blackledge is a lost cause. I guess we're going straight into closing arguments. And I was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
I got
stuff to do.
I got stuff that I need.
Yeah.
And so they took a quick break because Bradley Yohn had to use the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And that's when I asked Brittany, I'm like, can you, I just needed some envelopes and some business cards. And I had them all here on my, they're all where they were supposed to be. And I know she was like, dude, I want to watch this.
Yeah. But,
there's a video probably of me trying to unlock the door. Our doors are so whatever.
I must
going,
have.
Please.
I appreciated what she did so much that I went to like almost every bailiff in the room and everybody from the sheriff's staff and said, that young lady in the Black Money River News.
She let me in.
Let her back in.
Yeah.
Because
she let me in, but she gave me up.
Because it's my fault.
Yeah, well, because there had been an issue with Yohn's cousin.
Oh, yeah. I
Earlier
saw that
in
too.
this, in which he was not allowed in because he showed up.
He was
when
disruptive.
Trial started.
Okay, you got to hear my top 5 highlights.
Yeah, let's hear the
from
highlights.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Do I get a drum roll? Number 5. Okay, it is side counsel Todd Nelson's stone cold face. Any comment? Or should I comment first?
You go ahead. This is your list.
And Nelson is the counsel who's helping Yohn.
Counsel for Yohn.
Okay.
And he could only help with legal jargon, I guess.
Yeah, like how do I do this? How do I
things.
introduce this?
Yeah. Okay.
This is him the whole time. At one point in time during the 75-minute closing argument on Yohn, I don't think he moved at all. Like I watched for 30 minutes and he didn't move.
He was probably exhausted.
Yes, I'm assuming so.
Mm-hmm.
I could not imagine being in that man's
shoes. He and Yohn went round and round about what Yohn thought his duty was, and he didn't think he got enough help. Nelson was, I'm only here to do what Judge Thompson is telling me to do.
Yeah.
And so he, Todd. That's
Very stoic.
He's very stoic
Yes.
when he's in court on his own. But in this particular instance where he's just there kind of like, ask a friend, from
phone a friend.
Phone a friend from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That was what his role was. If he wasn't
That's
being
perfect.
phoned, he didn't move.
Yeah, go for
And
him.
that brings me to number 4. When he said when Yohn said crazy things and everyone would gasp or whatever, and you said, Josh Jones with this, and Laura Keck with her, she's got some mean side eyes, and I myself just like did this so many times that I wiped my eyebrows off of my face. Like
that's awesome.
I went home and I'm like going, oh my
gosh.
God, what happened? Everyone does
Looks like a rough
this
night.
the whole time.
Brittany after a rough night.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I mean, he said things that
But
I can't even imagine.
Todd Nelson didn't move.
No, Todd Nelson did not.
He wasn't
move.
like, shut up.
No.
Shut up,
he
brother.
he said incorrect things. He said inappropriate things, and he just didn't care. He just he must have said multiple times, "This is my life on the line," and so he threw all caution to the wind.
He's right.
The last 3 are things that I technically weren't there for completely because I had to go to my Monday money-making shift at the bar. So number 3 is Jones' post-trial comment about Yohn closing. In the words of James Downey, the principal from Billy Madison,
Yep.
everyone in the room is now dumber for having listened to this.
Yes.
I felt dumber by not remembering the line.
Oh, it's the best. I was thinking it the whole time.
Somebody commented
too.
that a couple times on the different social media, and I was like, that's brilliant.
It
Then
was.
to see that he said it
I'm so
after, I
happy.
was like, that's amazing.
Well, he prefaced, Laura Keck prefaced that. Obviously, those two worked together.
That they were
hand in
like
hand.
siblings.
And Laura was like, he wanted to use it in closing argument.
wish he
I
would've.
convinced
Yeah.
him into using it for the comments to the media.
I love
Perfect.
her.
But
I love
if-
her
if-
alluding to their relationship. That was so cute.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I
If-
kick him under the table.
Oh, they
I'm
do
his
that
like little
all the
sister that he hates to have here, but
Yeah.
they get along really well. That's good.
But I thought it was interesting that, I'm sort of a Billy Madison fan. It's
you
not
have
my
to go
favorite.
review the movie
but,
now.
but I'm listening to Todd say that, and I go, why am I remembering about you get no points for this? And frankly, may God have mercy on your soul. And I'm like,
Was that's
where
old
is
school?
he stealing that?
Is
from?
that
Yeah, I
old
think
school?
that's old school.
No, I think it's.
Oh.
I
That's
think,
Billy
I think
Madison?
Is
it's
it Billy Madison?
Oh,
too?
okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Well, then we all
Yeah,
need to go
because
read it.
remember Billy was trying to win some contest against the other guy.
Yes.
And he made some incoherent,
yeah.
rambling thought, and he says, "I hope they don't give you any
Yes.
points."
Yeah.
Yes.
No
And so I
points.
thought he was saying, well, maybe the jury
points
was
for that.
giving him points.
That's
and so
amazing.
kudos to Josh. I know he had a slight grin on his face
I bet
as he thought
it's
of that.
because it was over. Okay, number 2. This is the reason why I actually went. It is David Adams King Twitter typers.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I've been looking into like the idea of in-court tweeting and just the concept of it. I want to eventually explore that in maybe a op-ed story a little later, because what we talked about on Club Muddy, when people came up to they come up to me and they're asking why would Muddy
Why
River
would we
include
do that?
it? It's because it is part of the job.
Yeah,
And
it's the
I
job.
don't really want to get
Transparency.
into all of like the ideas behind that article, but the fact that you were putting out posts, these are like 3 to 4 complete sentence posts, minute by minute. Like
Yeah.
if you look at it, it's posted 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Just it's impressive. You are like up there with the big dogs.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I'm looking at national like news people that do this, and the amount of words that you're putting in there
Yeah.
are beating them.
Yeah, the actual-
so, like,
the actual-
it's kind of
I'll tell you, as someone who sat there and did that, one of my number one concern was typos, because I'm going really quick.
yeah.
And
It's a post though.
People can read it.
that's something that
I know,
that really
as an
bothered me.
editor.
But
Yeah.
the one thing that it was actually I was talking to my middle daughter over the weekend, and my 3 daughters followed a lot of this online, and my middle daughter, and I hadn't really thought of it in this way, but she goes, "Dad, do you realize that what you're doing is showing people how hard the Adams County State's Attorney's Office has to work and show people the type of work that has to be done by the Sheriff's Department to get all of that information, to give that to the prosecuting attorney so they can put together a case. And the same thing could have been said for the Quincy Police Department in the Bleefnick trial.
Yeah, with
it's
the
a way
discovery.
to sort of just open your eyes to this is not Law and Order.
Yeah.
It
You-
doesn't happen in an hour.
Yeah,
there is a
right.
ton
You
of
showed
work
this,
that goes into it.
narrative, though, like not that it isn't it, but you showed the story,
Mm-hmm.
like, and you could follow the story
Yeah.
so clearly without having to be there.
Yeah.
That
It was like a window into the
including
courtroom.
The details that people
Yeah.
didn't want to hear, and maybe that, like, I don't know, the story was there. You showed the whole thing, post by post, minute by minute, and
Thank you.
I aspire to do that one day.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
very
you.
cool.
It's basically, it's a little scary. It's a little of a high wire act because
Yeah.
I'm doing what I would normally do if I were to interview somebody. I'm taking notes or I'm recording things and recording things. You know, that's
and
how I do
processing
everything
it at the same time.
But as I'm doing this, I'm essentially giving my notes away for free on Twitter, which I could sit there and make I've got a notebook that I take with me everywhere I go, especially when I go to the courtroom, and I'll make notes about things, and I could write on there something about this defendant, is an idiot, or this person did whatever, but it's just a note to myself.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm putting it all out there live for everyone to read.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I did. I don't want to say I enjoyed it, but I do enjoy having the opportunity to get a front row seat, even if I can't be there, even if there are some things that are hard to swallow. I enjoy having that information made available to me because I do think it's important to offer that,
and
to people who are interested. And if you're not interested, then you don't have to watch it.
Don't
Yeah.
watch it.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
but I think that the numbers.
But it is your duty.
The
Yeah,
numbers that
duty. She
we
said
see from people who are coming to our website and following us show there's a lot of people who are interested.
Yeah.
So I had two people. I went to mass on Saturday night at 5:00, just by myself. I was going to get a bite to eat afterward, and I had two people come up to me and just say, "Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping me informed. What you're doing is performing a service for the community." And that was nice to hear, because I thought maybe at church I might get a few, you shouldn't be saying the word vagina on Twitter.
Let's be real, though. I heard somebody else say that. What do you want him to call it? Cooter? Like, let's be real. You know what I mean? There are technical terms
Yeah,
and non-technical
this is
terms.
science, people.
And as an adult, I would rather hear the word vagina.
I'm just shocked that I'm part of a broadcast in which we just use the word cooter.
Oh, well, times are changing.
I guess times are changing.
I think you're liking this, too.
It's pretty fun. Yeah.
All right, number one.
I was going to say.
Number
let's-
one.
okay.
Number one.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Number one was the lunchbox that I shared with Bob in the bar as we read the verdict online on Muddy River
Oh.
News.
Wow. That's quite the culmination of an
That is
entire
quite,
process.
That
That's
is
awesome.
quite a culmination of.
I'm a little sad I didn't get invited.
You're invited every
I know
Monday,
I am.
and you know that.
Yeah, I know. I was just being a shit.
Yeah,
but-
the closing of the chapter of it all, and I
Pretty
didn't
insane.
I didn't take a shot with the family, but Bob and I had our own little private. Well, it wasn't that private because I was working.
I am glad it's over. I am glad the family now has some sense of closure. I think the sentencing will be very interesting because
People are angry.
I look at the victim impact statements almost as in, all right, you're Bradley Yohn, your hands are strapped, and now I get to take just one.
I just get to beat
I
ya.
just get to take one free punch.
Why one? Why not five?
Yeah.
And
one punch for every stupid thing he said. Boy, that
Six
he'd
counts.
be in trouble.
6 punch.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting what was said by many of the family members during the Karen Blackledge sentencing. I think it'll be fascinating to see because
Now she got what? I'm sorry. Let's
40
just.
40
she got
years.
40
Two-
years.
two 20-year
20-year
sentences.
Okay.
And Yohn, at least the attorney said yesterday, they're going to start with 70 because
70 years.
Yeah, because he's
For
got
all
the-
counts together
everything.
consecutively.
They
or
have to figure out what they're going to ask for.
Okay.
There's one count
minimum 70 years though.
that stands alone, and it cannot be run consecutively with any of the other ones. So
Okay.
and that one's 16 to 40. I'm going to assume that they're going to try to go for the maximum in all of this.
Yeah.
But there's one count that's 16 to 40 that stands on its own. There are 4 counts that are 6 to 30, and there's one count that's 4 to 15. So
Okay.
and
So life.
John
for the rest of his
basically,
natural born life,
basically what Laura Keck says, it's going to essentially be a life sentence.
Yeah. Well, I guess at least he'll be serving some of it with his dad, right?
No,
No.
he's in the Adams County Jail.
Oh, okay. Where's
And
his dad?
That was the goodbye, remember?
Dad's in Adams County Jail. Yohn,
oh, he's going to prison.
Yeah.
he's already gone.
Okay.
For real?
Yeah, he got.
Oh, really?
He left this morning.
So that was probably
Oh.
his. That probably was his.
They'll bring him
au revoir.
back.
Yeah.
They'll bring him back. Let's just say that the folks in the Adams
I
County
bet
Jail.
we're not sad to see him go.
I don't know if they lined the path out with rose petals, but
Just
they
one big clap?
They were so done with him
I bet.
that they made arrangements for him to be taken out of the jail Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning.
Gosh, I just can't. It takes all kinds, I guess.
I guess.
It's just insane. Well, I appreciate both of you putting, skin in the game and being there. I'm sure it was exhausting and interesting and terrible and I just
All the above.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So I appreciate you putting in the time, putting in the effort. Don't necessarily enjoy hearing about it, but again, I do have interest in it because it does affect our community and people in it. So thank you for doing that. And I'll be looking forward to the sentencing and whatever appeals process happens next. And I'm sure you guys will keep.
And I think
keep
David is
me in the
looking
know.
forward to a vacation.
Yeah, right?
I've got a little bit more work I need to get finished.
Okay.
But I told Bob after this,
Yeah, you need a breather.
I need to go. If I sit in the living room of my house and watch the ceiling fan go round and around for 3 days,
Yeah, it'd be better.
that's
than,
okay.
You know, turn on the TV.
I'm
and
sure
watch
you can
some
find
court
something
TV.
more interesting to do than that, right? But if that's it,
the lowest
Yeah.
bar I've set.
all right. Well, I guess, again, thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate everything you both have done. And on that note, I think that does it for today's Coffee Talk. Still nothing?
No.
All right.
Okay.
Instant Replay is your local sports bar. With 18 big screen TVs, we have all the sports packages from college games to pro games. We offer daily drink specials, and come check out the Bullpen, our newly renovated beer garden. Instant Replay, 2739 Chestnut in Quincy.
Welcome to the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
With 6 big screens, a new larger kitchen, and now more seating capacity, the Abbey is the place to be before, during, and after the big game. Come enjoy fan favorite appetizers, steaks, burgers, and a variety of daily food and drink specials. Can't join us? Carryout is available too. Now with a convenient drive-up window to better serve you. 1736 Spring in Quincy. Opens at 3 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday.
Come join all your friends at the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.